So you've come here for the truth. Well, we've got the truth and nothing but the truth. Here are your hosts, Robert A. Bianchi and David J. Bruno.
Welcome to Nothing But the Truth podcast with Bob Bianchi, Dave Bruno, two lawyers from New Jersey. Believe it or not, we're here still, Dave, after all these episodes talking about mindset. Amazing guests who have had great success because their mindset has been in the right space. Another great one today, Dave.
Yeah, Conrad Saam. I mean, this is one of the innovators of legal marketing that we have today, Bob, and really excited. Conrad started in Avo. About 6 years in Avo, then started Mockingbird Legal in 2013. Been in the game for decades, Bob, and it's a topic dear to our hearts, obviously, at the Bianchi Law Group. You know, putting gasoline on the great work and services that we provide here, criminal defense, domestic violence, municipal court. And it is such a pleasure to have Conrad on to Nothing But the Truth. Conrad, welcome, my friend.
It is very nice to be here. I'm speaking to you from outside of Seattle, but I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey. So that is my hometown. There you go. Good old New Jersey. And that's what we're coming out of. We're coming out of New Jersey, Bob being the former Morris County prosecutor. So, Bob, I know this is a topic that you have a lot to say about. Why don't you kick us off?
You'll have a technical way of going about this, and I'm gonna give Conrad my speech, right? So I'm a second generation attorney, Conrad. So I need therapy. I'm a trial lawyer. My dad's 93, and he's still handling cases. And boy, what an arc we've come from in terms of advertising. So my dad sat on a committee in the mid-'60s that wanted to recommend against allowing attorneys to advertise at all, and they were shot down, and it was like a one-person decision, and they allowed attorney advertising, at least in its form, back in the day. And I can just hear my father, even to this day, talking about how I think that that's going to deprecate the profession, and it's going to be about who's a better advertiser as opposed to who's a better lawyer. And there's the ethos that I kind of grew up in. And when I became the county prosecutor, as Dave noted before, just before that, I was in private practice, and our main form of advertising, Dave finds this funny, and most people won't even understand what I'm saying if you're later than a millennial. Our number one form of advertising was the yellow pages.
Yep.
And I'm talking about the 2000s. I'm not talking about too long ago. I got appointed and nominated to be prosecutor in 2007 and stayed until 2013. And I mentioned this history as part of the arc. When we got out, all of a sudden it was like, well, search engine optimization, and what's your Google presence, and what's your social media, and you got to be an Avo, which I find out you were, a part of. You've got to be super lawyer. You've got to be this, that, and the other. And I was super resistant. Yeah. And I had that dad ethos in me where I'm like, Dave, we're New Jersey Supreme Court certified criminal trial lawyers. There's only, we're two of 250 in the state of New Jersey have been certified to be the best, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I genuinely believe that. But COVID hit. And it was my last part of my saga to you is that when COVID hit, we were at a lecture, and a guy said something to me. It was like hit me over the head with a hammer, and it's just like an epiphanic moment, if you will, when he literally pointed me out and said, Bob, there's no honor in people that don't have eyeballs on your law firm. Because all that's going to happen is that somebody is going to go to a better marketer and a worse lawyer than you. Get in the game. And that was a pivot point. And so, we also found, last point, like clients would say things to us like, you're certified, whatever, but you're not a super lawyer, or you're not Avo rated. And so you wind up having to get into this game. And then it gets to the point where you wonder how much of this advertising is, like, where does it end? How do great law firms like ours, how do we shine through this when others who are less qualified and less skilled and less experienced have the same level playing field of reach to the community? I'm sorry for the long-winded speech, but I tee it to you.
No, but I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the Yellow Pages. The very first presentation I ever gave to lawyers, and I still have it somewhere, is called "The Death of the Yellow Pages." I gave it in 2007.
Huh.
I believe it was to what some variant of the AAJ at the time. It was down in Florida. 400 lawyers in the room, and they thought I was an idiot. They hated me. They didn't want to hear about it. This is back. I mean, this is 2007. It's not that long ago. They didn't believe that lawyers should be reviewed online, right? Like that was something that the legal community was talking about. They didn't believe that they should be rated online. They didn't believe that people would go to the web to find lawyers. 2007. This is not that long ago. And I think one of the things that is, I have this conversation all the time with lawyers, and it's very much what you talked about. I'm the best lawyer in wherever, Chattanooga, but my Google profile sucks, right? And Google doesn't recognize that. Well, the reality is Google's not looking for the best lawyer, right? Their algorithm has nothing to do with whether or not you are a good lawyer. Avo somewhat tried to change that by what essentially creating a resume score, right? But we all know that just having a great resume, where you went to law school, for example, and how you graduated and what you did, doesn't necessarily make you a great lawyer. And so I would like to disambiguate for all of the listeners. Don't conflate the notion that because you're a good lawyer, you should have a strong Google presence, right? Those two things are completely separate, which is super frustrating, right? And the later that you pick this up, like the more difficult it gets. But that was one of the things that Avo did a little bit by doing a resume score, but that's as close as it ever got to, is this person actually a good lawyer? And to this day, there's nothing out there. ChatGPT, Google, SEO, whatever we want to talk about, there's nothing out there that actually evaluates whether or not you do a great job lawyering, right? You're a service business, and it's fundamentally different than selling a product.
Well, is that why the reviews are so important, Conrad? I mean, I guess if you want to bring some objectivity to any of those, it would be maybe prior customers that give feedback on the services that they receive.
So that is a viewed assessment of whether or not you are a good lawyer. But go look and read through your reviews. What never shows up in a review, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but what never shows up in a review is his understanding of blah, blah, blah statute was the linchpin that changed the legal strategy that was brilliant and it really worked for us. It is all about bedside manner, right? And I use the bedside manner metaphor deliberately because when you are getting knee surgery, you don't know, even after you've had the knee surgery, was that surgeon skilled? Did they do a great job of tucking the meniscus in, and did they use the right stitches? And like your knee hurts, but you can walk. Can you walk? Like, you don't know. You have no idea of evaluating it, even after you've received the service, of whether or not it was a great knee surgery. What you do know is that the guy spoke to you at your level. You weren't talked down to. They cared about you. There was a follow-up. He was human. He or he wasn't, right?
Yeah.
You may have the best, and I mean, surgeons are notorious for this. You may have the most abrupt, abrasive asshole of a surgeon who does an amazing job, but you don't like the delivery, and therefore you rate them poorly. And that's what happens when you read through the reviews. They're not a reflection of lawyering ability. They are really a reflection of bedside manner.
Wow. Absolutely. Great points you make. So, I want to get back a little bit because you founded Mockingbird in 2013. So, I mean, that is one of the trailblazing companies in this industry. So tell me, what was the story in starting that, coming from Avo before, with the experience you got there?
So the beautiful thing is that I deliberately skipped the interim, what happened in the middle of that. So Avo got really big. We were, from an SEO perspective, we won the game. There was a lot of venture capital money that was put into Avo, and we were really pushing advertising aggressively. Anyone who was an attorney in the mid 2000s, 2010s knows just how aggressively we were pushing advertising, and it kind of changed the flavor of what we were doing. from my perspective, and I needed to move on. So I went, and I don't know if you remember the app Urban Spoon. It was on the phone, and you could shake your phone, it would find a nearby restaurant. And I went there, and the first day I started, my boss resigned. And so like I knew that this was not going to go very far. It was a terrible fit, and I ended up telling them the marketing mistakes that they were making very honestly, because that's how I work, and I got fired. And so I started Mockingbird because I needed a gig, and I never thought I was going to actually have a digital marketing agency. When I moved to Seattle from Philly back in 2002, I worked at a digital marketing agency out here, and I was like, this is a terrible business. I don't ever want to do this, and I don't want to ever have partners. And turns out I now don't have partners, but I do have a digital marketing agency. But it was honestly by mistake. It was never something I did it really intentionally. I was very lucky. There was a guy who I will not name, but basically owned PI across the Eastern Seaboard from Long Island down to Florida. He had 212 websites. So this is back in 2013. 212 websites. They all interlinked to each other. It was this big, massive SEO, like black hat campaign that was amazingly successful until it wasn't. And so his business disappeared overnight. And so he brought me on to try and fix this. And that was my first client. And then I ended up through a friend of a friend meeting these three guys who started a law firm, an employment law firm, HKM. They do employment law, and it was the three guys at the time. We've been working and directing over a long period of time. They now have, I think, like 27 offices around the country, right? Because employment law is actually pretty easy to win in the SEO game. And so those were kind of my first two clients, and it then just snowballed. And I first thought I would be an SEO consultant, and then as we were able to unravel the 212 website mistake and actually get him back to where he was doing well, I was like, okay, I can do this. And then then I brought on my first employee, which is the most terrifying thing in the world to do. And it's kind of been that ever since.
All right. Well, listen, I got some questions, guys. I got some questions. I'll be I got questions.
I got questions too. That's why it's nothing but the truth, Bob.
I got questions and I need the truth, but we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
At the Bianchi Law Group, our team of former prosecutors and certified criminal trial attorneys specialize in criminal defense and domestic violence cases. When you need a law firm with courage, compassion, and the commitment to fight for you, call the Bianchi Law Group today.
All right, we are back. Nothing but the truth with Conrad Saam. Conrad spit in wisdom here, one of the innovators, one of the beginning. And you know what? We're sitting here in 2025, and there's so much change, I feel, in legal marketing at the moment. You know, the LSAs jumped to the top of the search page in 2021. Then you have PPC, you have maps, you have organic, which was, you know, that SEO that you're talking about winning the game in the early spaces. But what about ChatGPT? We got AI coming in the mix too. So I know there's a lot to talk about in all of that, but I mean, is SEO dead right now, Conrad? Or is it thriving as good as ever with AI?
So SEO is not dead. Having said that, it would be fallacious to not suggest that there's been a drop-off. The reconfiguration of the SERP pages have really fundamentally shifted the importance of SEO, but it's not dead. However, I think this is a really salient point. It's dead for a lot of people. If you are a solo attorney who wants to start a firm in downtown Manhattan or downtown Trenton for that matter, you're never going to be able to play in the SEO game. You're not going to catch up. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We've been running this game for in my case, since 2006. So like, you're not going to win. And so I think what's really happened, it used to, my career, like I was an SEO guy, like, and it used to be all the digital business that was generated digitally, the vast majority, 95%, I'm pulling that number out of the air, went through Google SEO, right? And then you had pay-per-click that crept into the game, right? And so the SERP page used to be 10 blue links. That was like the old search people will talk about the 10 blue links. It's not that anymore. So it is still a very viable channel for some law firms, right? But what you're seeing now, and you're right, there's a multiplicity of other ways that you can play the game. And in my opinion, the firms that are winning right now are playing multiple channels, and those multiple channels are self-reinforcing. They reinforce each other, and that's where you're winning. Those are the people who are winning.
So somebody like me, I don't know what that means. I feel like we have spoken to every known coach for search engine optimization, multiple platforms, changing of websites, different marketing concepts for the last, I don't know, 12 or 13 years. And it's evergreen, it's ever changing. But what do you, for a guy like me who knows a lot about this, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Go ahead, Conrad.
So I wore this on purpose. This is my turkey trot shirt from last year. Okay. And what happens if you do, and I got to the turkey trots because of SEO. When you're running local SEO really well, you're driving local links. That has been the foundational thing that really is a game changer. You have content, you have technology, and the links. The links are really what make you win or lose.
Now, Conrad, when you say links, are you talking about like in the maps section? Is that local links you're talking about? What are you talking about with links?
I'm literally talking about this is the Issaquah Turkey Trot. So I live in a little town outside of Seattle called Issaquah. If I want to win Issaquah, I know that the local turkey trot for the food bank in Issaquah, and I sponsor that, and there's a link from that food bank and from that turkey trot to my website. A local link is a link that is from a geographic location that you serve. One of the, and I will get back to your point, Bob. I will tie this all together. I promise. I'm not just going on some crazy tangent.
And just for clarification for everyone here, is that what's called a backlink, Conrad?
Yeah.
To your website. So it's like the turkey trot has a little link that sends them to your website known as a backlink.
Correct.
Got it.
And no one ever clicks on it because who's running a turkey trot who needs a PI lawyer right now? Nobody, really, for the most part, right?
Right.
But it was what made Google so successful. Google's not the first search engine, but they use these backlinks to evaluate the quality of other sites. And that's what made them deliver better quality content than any of the other engines that existed beforehand, right? And so I need all these backlinks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a backlink from the turkey trot, but I'm not just going to get a backlink from the turkey trot. I'm actually going to do a video interview of Janet, who runs the turkey trot. She's a turkey trot race person, and we're gonna talk to Janet about the turkey trot and why she does this. And then we're gonna find the food bank that the turkey trot supports, and I'm gonna talk to Bill because Bill, we're gonna do content. Bill, in fact, he gets 90% of his funding for the year from the turkey trot, and that's really, really important. And they get to serve all these people in soup kitchens in and around my little area, right? Now I'm gonna take that content and I'm going to put that out on social media. So now I have, and I'm going to throw that up there. And now I've got the people who run the turkey trot and Bill, the guy who runs the food bank. Now they are my friends, and they have become my marketing arm. They're going to share that content as well. So that shares out. And then because all of those sharing platforms, all those social platforms actually like making money, I'm now going to advertise that my law firm is sponsoring the local turkey trot to people who care about food banks and who care about running. So now I've got two different audiences that I can expand my reach in by putting that message, that content in front of those people. It's not about 10 things to do when you're rear-ended by a car. It is things that are going to build affinity with people who care about the same thing that I care about. Okay. So now I'm doing paid. So just think about all of the things that come into play here. I'm doing paid social media. Okay, I'm doing local engagement. I'm doing organic social media. I'm doing SEO. I've got my website running. I'm doing local because you know what? It would be amazing if someone would write a review and be like, hey, thanks for sponsoring the turkey trot. We had a great time. That is not against Google's guidelines, right? So like really appreciate that you were such a big supporter of the food bank, whatever it might be. I'm doing all of these channels. They're all working together. And by all working together, and I hate this word because I have an MBA and this is like the most overused words except for strategy at business school, is synergy. These things all working together. But that that's actually what's happening. So this is omni-channel marketing in which all of these channels work together. And then 6 months down the road, when someone who ran the turkey trot, right, and saw my videos about why this turkey trot is really important, when they end up in an accident or they end up in a divorce, they do a query. They've forgotten about my firm, right? But they do a query for a divorce lawyer or personal injury lawyer. And then they see, and whether it's conscious or subconscious, there's a brand awareness and maybe even a brand affinity. Oh, I remember those guys. So I'm going to click on that ad. So now my pay-per-click is working better. And because I have a brand now, my pay-per-click quality score goes up, which means I have to bid less to get a really good position, which makes my economics all work that much better. You put all of these things and you wrap them all together, and now you have a marketing omni-channel approach that the synergies make the economics work better than anyone else. And that's where the magic happens right now.
Oh, I'm loving it. Bob, do you have any questions on that? I love it.
I mean, I think that, like, the thing that's frustrated me is we put a lot of time and money in getting more eyeballs on our firm because we're very proud of what it is that we do. And we're TV legal analysts, so we're on national TV a couple times a week. We were very high-level positioned prosecutors who were in the media for real cases, all the time. And I feel like our presence should be bigger. And I only say that because then I see people who don't do anything in marketing. They don't do anything on the internet. And sometimes they're ranking better than we are in terms of people seeing them. And I
organically
don't understand that.
Organically, for the record.
And last point, that's one observation. I'm not sure if it fits in. And two, what do a guy like you see a firm like, I'm sure you're going to see a firm like ours who's got a very big public footprint. But then you're going to see firms that don't have any footprint and need to build a footprint. What do you advise them?
All right, so two very foundationally different questions. Mm-hmm. You have a very big media footprint. So my question would come back to, is that reflected in your digital presence, right? So like I'll pull things out of the air. So you are, I'll use one very obvious tactical example. You speak about things that are frequently in the news, right? On legal cases. Is that reflected on Wikipedia? Right? Are there any Wikipedia entries that reference you guys?
Right.
And do those Wikipedias have a proper citation that references the firm correctly? Mm-hmm. And ideally, maybe even a link back to the firm. So that's one tactic. But there's hundreds of places where you can have a footprint because you have a voice. Are you deliberately building that footprint and leveraging it's the same thing I was just talking about. Are you leveraging what you do offline with what you do online and connecting all the dots? And one of the things that I found, this is early on, I got to do a lot of PR for Avo, not because I'm a PR trained person, but because it was amazing at driving links, right? And so what I basically believe at this point in time is PR done well is just link building on steroids, right? And so what you're really trying to do is make sure that your what you're doing with PR and what you're doing with offline presence, it's the same with the turkey trot. Is that incorporated into the digital marketing that you are doing from a tactical perspective? And is that what's winning? So you have an asset that I suspect, I don't know that I'm right about this, I suspect you have not fully leveraged, right?
I'm sure.
The second question that you had is, okay, I'm somebody else. I'm one of my listeners, right? I don't have that presence. What should I do? And so I think this is where it's really important. I use this. This is a very overused analogy, but it is very important. I think you need to look at digital marketing like a chessboard. It used to be all about Google. It was all Google all the time. SEO. You win that game, you're growing your firm. You lose that game, or you get kicked out, you're donezo, right? So It's very different today. Everyone is playing the SEO game, right? Everyone is trying to play the SEO game, and it is very crowded, and it is full of spam, and the reviews are all fake, and all of those problems. It is really hard to get into that game. It's like me going to play in the NBA. It's just a bad idea, right? I'm never going to compete. So I think you have to look at this from a chess perspective. What are all of the pieces? I talk about omni-channel marketing. In a perfect world, my growing firm is doing all of the things. But it's not a perfect world because some of those things, to again use the chess analogy, sometimes the most important thing you do with chess is you leave the piece where it is. Like its job is actually not to move. Its job is where it is. And I think what's often missed with marketing people, and this is why like I started this as an SEO agency, but now we do all of the things, right? And it's not because I would love to just be an SEO dude. Like that's what I personally enjoy. But like the reality is pay-per-click is really important. AI is really important. Paid social is really important. Programmatic advertising is really important. Database marketing is really important. Like that local engagement is really important. There's so many things that you can do. And so I believe, and our job is basically to look at all of those different marketing channels as different chess pieces and understand which ones to move for any given firm and which ones not to move. I will use a simplistic example. We were working with a guy who is on the outskirts of Dallas, Rockwall, Texas, okay? Small town on the outskirts of Dallas. His local campaign, like he's doing well from an SEO perspective in Rockwall, Texas, which is great, but it is not enough to feed a growing firm. He should not move into Dallas, but his local campaign should absolutely move to the east of Dallas because he can win there, right? And he has this unique set of circumstances like every other firm. Where can you win and where should you not bother trying because you're going to lose? And I think most marketing agencies, like if I just followed my heart, I'd be like, hey, we should be doing SEO. You should be doing SEO. Everyone should be doing SEO because that's what I like. Well, you know what? Like it doesn't work for everyone. And there's there are the right chess pieces to play for any given firm. And I think what's missing often is the strategic mind to understand play the rook, but leave that pawn where it is.
You sound like one of those guys that's at a board on election night and they know like literally what every county and every state, where to put your assets, where not to put your assets, where you need to be, not be, what
That's
you've
right.
got locked in, what you don't have locked in. And yeah, it's really that's what struck me when you said that.
So you can't try and win it all because you will fail. Most people will fail. There are some people who are doing a great job who have tons of resources and they're winning better because they are doing all of the things. But you've got to be able to win at the like. I don't want to go into a fight. Like, I mean, Sun Tzu, right? Don't go into a battle that you're never going to win. So like we miss that in the strategy of digital marketing too often.
Fascinating. Look, AI is here to stay. And especially in legal, it's a huge conversation. You know, just pushing it away from like the business of law, like the actual practice of law. I think AI has so many possible uses for digital marketing for lawyers. What are some of the tops that you could think of in this ever so changing world of AI?
My world is basically from like attracting a client, maybe, to do they sign? And so one of the things that this is launched in the last month. So there, Filevine launched this, Clio launched this, and Lawmatics launched this. Lead scoring through AI, right? So let me go back on lead scoring and lead scoring as a concept, and then we'll talk about AI. You guys know this. Not all of your leads are created equal, and yet most of you have the same workflow for every single lead. Right? And usually, as an aside, that workflow is pretty garbage from a user experience, from a bedside manner experience. So usually intake is the weakest part of a law firm because you don't respect it enough to pay people who are really good at it enough. So that I'm not talking about you individually, but as a whole. But lead scoring is basically like this is a really important case. This is something that we want to work on. This is something that we want to chase. We want to really turn this person into a client. And there's a spectrum. Some of them are maybes. Some of them are definitely not. Some of them are like it's bread and butter, but it's not gonna be world changing. You need to treat your leads differently as they come in. There has to be a lead scoring component, and some of you do it innately, right? So like my intake person knows that if it's a trucking accident from an Amazon driver, like that they should call me. Do they really know that? Do they really know that your third party Smith AI, and I'm not besmirching Smith or whatever your third-party answering service is, or the person that you pay, $12 an hour who just started 3 months ago, do they really know that? Like intellectually, like it makes sense to us, but do they know that? And they're really going to do something? Are they going to go walk into your office and interrupt a meeting because you need to get on the phone right now with this amazing case? They're not. So lead scoring is super, super important to improve the conversion rate and therefore the economics of all of your marketing. We're going to convert those really important leads at a much higher rate than all the rest. Like that is a fact. It's a missed part of marketing. You can now have AI do this, and you can actually teach AI what you're listening for. You can teach AI the things to listen into. You can give it the questions that you want. You can even have AI. This is Lawmatics does this. If you do an intake that's really, really basic and is missing a bunch of features, like I don't have enough information to say that this is a hot lead or a warm lead or a moderately cold lead, right? I don't have enough information. So I'm going to go back through technology and reach out to that client and say, listen, where was this accident? When was it? Because we didn't pick up that information on the initial intake, whether that intake is a form fill or it's a phone call. I don't care. But you can actually have AI go back and answer those questions so they can do the lead scoring. So what you end up with, not at the end of the week or at the end of the day, but in real time, an understanding of, I need to talk to Maribel right now because we need to convert her because she is a hot lead. That's awesome, right? And that's available on 3 different products. And like, if you're not like, this is where to dance with AI, right? Like a lot of it's speculative, a lot of it, especially on the marketing side, a lot of it's unknown, a lot of it has ethical questions and concerns. This is solid. Do it today. And if you're not, like, you're missing out.
What were those 3 platforms you said, Conrad?
So Clio, they built it, I believe, into the Clio Grow, which was formerly Lexicata. So that's their intake management software. That's Clio Grow. Filevine has built it directly into their product. I think Filevine's is free if you're a Filevine subscriber. I think, don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And then Lawmatics, from my perspective, Lawmatics has kind of the most sophisticated intake management software that's out there. But like those 3, and I'm sure that it'll crop up elsewhere, but like, and you can build it yourself if you really want to get kind of nerdy about things. But like, it's a great opportunity to like think about the ability to just make sure that we're going to improve. And this is like turning a small dial. We're going to convert those most important cases 2% better, 2% more, right? Like that's a huge impact on the bottom line of your firm.
Well said on intake. And we're in Lawmatics as our CRM, and we spend a lot of time on intake.
So the Lawmatics stuff is actually really awesome. What I just described, it like going back and realizing it gives a confidence of its answer. So if it has a low confidence in being able to say that this is a hot lead or not a hot lead, you can tell it to go back and get the information that you need for the AI to actually say this is a hot case. How cool is that, right? Instead of like, okay, Bill at the front desk, when you have a little bit of time, do you mind calling back to Janet because we need these 5 pieces? Like, it just automates. It's awesome.
How do you feel about content creation in this, again, tech boom? I am sick of seeing the AI. I am sick of seeing avatars personally. I'm a big believer in authenticity over, the cookie cutter stuff that I see. And I'm wondering, an executive in the legal marketing space like yourself, how you feeling about these things that we're seeing artificially in the space?
So I'm gonna answer you twice for 2 different questions. One is written content, especially on an SEO perspective, and the next is visual content, right? And then we can even talk about like video content if you want to. It is unbelievably amazing how realistic AI video content can be, right? That is unbelievable. So let's accept that for what it is. But let me start first with written content. It used to be that generating content at a high level, if you had enough site authority, if you had enough backlinks pointing to your site, you could have a ton of content. Avo was a great example of that. We had hundreds of thousands of pages of content. They were indexed and served up to users. So just having a sheer volume of content, you have the long tail, like there's all these, there's an asset in that content, and it takes a long time to write, or it took a long time to write. That's no longer a competitive advantage because, like it or not, you can write with human oversight. The cost of generating high quality, readable content has gone down dramatically. The barriers to that have actually really disappeared. And so I don't see a volume of content anymore as an asset, right? Because as an unassailable asset. And so and all you have to do is look at the way Google did a complete 180 on their policy around AI content. Their initial written policy was we can identify it and we will deprecate it. Okay. And they have completely 180'd that. And I've done some podcasts on this, but like they've completely changed their mind on this. And at least one of two things is true. Either they can't tell that it's AI written. And I suspect that is very much the case, because I know if I can scrub AI content well enough, cleverly enough, with some editorial oversight, I can't tell. Maybe computers can, but like I don't think Google can tell anymore. And I also believe this is the case, especially with legal content. The AI content is actually more readable than most of the crap that you lawyers have been putting out for years anyway. Yeah. And so it's a better experience. So AI from a written content perspective, really, really fascinating. Let's talk about visual content. I think it is very important for attorneys to not to push away from the typical trappings of a law firm, right? So if you are relying on the scales of justice or leather-bound books or white columns or badges, no, like it doesn't differentiate. All it says is I'm a lawyer, which does nothing for you. And I believe the lawyers who actually do a really, really good job use that. It's almost a lawyerly trope, right? Like this is what a lawyer is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And they push against that from a branding and positioning perspective. So it's not, and when you do that, you change for the prospective client's mind, you change the math. So if I need a personal injury lawyer in Chattanooga, there's 25 to choose from, okay? But if I find someone that I relate to, or not, right? I'm not 1 in 25. It's binary, right? So like I'm into this person because they like the University of Chattanooga, or they contribute, or they're a first responder, or they contribute to the Don't Kick Puppies Fund, or the Turkey Chart, whatever it might be. I mean, it's either going to resonate with me, and I'm like, yes, I like that person, and I'm not going to consider all the other 19 because they're all the same, or it doesn't, and then I have to go pick among the 19. But it turns the equation into a binary equation. Do I relate to this person? Is this someone that I trust? And you don't build trust. And this is what lawyers have so much trouble believing. You don't build trust because your mahogany desk is bigger than someone else's, or because you're on a floor that's taller than anyone else's, or because your suit is more expensive than anyone else's. That's how you communicate that you're a lawyer without any imagination, but you don't communicate trust, right? And that's where I like the polish falling off.
Wild. Now, visual. What would you consider visual? Is that like carousels, photographs, graphics?
I mean, it's everything, right? So there's a reason I've got my logo behind me all the time. There's a reason I wear orange all the time. It is everything. And there are some firms. I will give you guys an example of this. There is a firm named the Guzman Law Firm in Iowa. Okay. From the beginning, their colors, their typography, everything is deliberate. It is selected on purpose, and it is very polished, right? And so she's communicating polish with a consistency of the imagery that she uses. So just look in our backgrounds, look, so we're using our backgrounds right now to communicate who we are. We're using what we're wearing right now to communicate who we are. David, you're leaning into the podcast thing really hard, right now. And I noticed, I picked this up earlier with Bob. There's the EMT plaques right in the background. If you'll notice in my background, there's a reason there's an American flag sitting in my background, right? Yeah. And I will tell you, if we get deep into this, my neighbor kid painted that for me when I got my citizenship. And I've always had that in the background, right? And I've got my logo in the background. Like all of these things, you have to be deliberate about it. There's a reason I'm not sitting out in my living room, because my living room is a mess. It's not on brand for what I want. And so it's everything. It's how you position yourself. I'm not saying there's not room for the polish. I'm just saying that there has to be a deliberate communication of who you are. We are a service business. Think about this. We are a service-based business. We already established that you cannot evaluate the quality of the lawyering that you got even after you've received the product. And so people look to other cues as to whether or not you are the things that they like. Do I know you? Do I like you? Are you trustworthy? Are you competent? You look for other things to actually communicate that, right? And that has nothing to do with how good of a lawyer you are. And that's super fascinating. So it's everything.
Well said. Visual, right? And then you get to the AI, like avatars, all the video stuff, Conrad. You kind of gave a little preview that you like it and it looks good, but what say you on that topic?
Well, so I mean, this is going to get fascinating. I'll walk down this path because it makes the point and it's creepy at the same time. There are young women who have licensed themselves to AI to create video imagery of themselves. This is all porn, right? So you can now have AI that's basically indistinguishable that learns what people like from a sex perspective, right? Like, and you now have people who really genuinely have like AI girlfriends. Like, this is a thing. So where do we go? And I don't really have a great answer on this. Where do we go? Like, this communication that we're having right now, this could be AI, right? Like, it's conceivable. The technology is there where we could be having this dialogue that is all written by AI that is trained. Like, I've trained AI on my voice, right? We do this for clients. Like, my version of ChatGPT sounds just like Conrad from the words that it uses, right? Now you can do that with imagery and intonation, right? So like, what do lawyers have to do now to stand out? Like, that's the next big question. When it really genuinely can be. So let me use an example. I'll take the porn example. Let's apply it to lawyers. Let's say I'm like, hey guys, what you really need to do is build a really deep well of content about Chattanooga, right? And you want to be the small business proponent of Chattanooga. I can have AI generate a Conrad review of every single restaurant in Chattanooga on video that is essentially indistinguishable from the real thing. I don't even have to go to the restaurants, right? I can go read a bunch of reviews. I can look at Urban Spoon. I can look at Yelp. I can learn all this stuff and I can create, like, that's mad. So think about 2 years from now, how do lawyers stand out in that realm? And do consumers start to get suspicious of that AI content in the same way that they are now completely suspicious of reviews, right? Where does that go? Where does that lead us? That's, for me, that's the part that, like, I can't wait to figure out.
It is mind blowing as to how far we've come just in a short period of time, too. I mean, with the text to image, and then image to video, avatars on HeyGen, and 11 Labs on audio, voice is probably where you're at too. I mean, it's just like, what's next, Conrad?
So what's next will be what has always been important. I just don't know how to actually do it. And that is, how do I establish know, like, and trust with people who want to hire me? Right? And as consumers evolve in their in how they consume content and how they believe content. I mean, you can look at the political news, right? Just to realize just how easy it is to manipulate the way people feel about what is happening in their outside world, right? And you have these echo chamber effects. How do we evolve in the way we build know, like, and trust for humans?
So I want to interject here.
Yeah.
A basic old school concept that may have a new school application.
Yeah.
And when I used to be the singular person making the decision as to any lawyer, detective, or support staff that got hired at the prosecutor's office, I reviewed, this was just me, every single person.
Yep.
Other people before me reviewed people, blah, 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 and it eventually got to me. And my HR person knew on the resume to rip off the front page of the resume, as it were. All I wanted to know was what your extracurricular activities were. I know it sounds odd. Hear me out.
No, go.
I know you got a law degree for lawyers. I know you passed the bar. This would not be in front of me if all the regular check boxes had not been checked.
Right.
What I want to know is who you are.
That's right.
That's the one thing through this whole process I really don't know. And when I see where your extracurricular activities are, and when I ask you in the interview process, became more important to me than your academic credentials. Are you an EMT? Are you a volunteer? Are you in a soup kitchen? Are you a wrestling maven like Dave was? Well, that's what each one of those things is telling me something about the person. Or are you just an academic and you're going to say to me, since I've been in high school, I've never worked, I've never had a job, all I did was study. You're not going to get a job with me. So I've said to Dave before, to me, the credibility indicator, it's not what you say, not what you do, it's how you make people feel, Maya Angelou, right? When people are going to look at me, I think the EMT is an expression of who I am as a person. Yep. I think my extracurricular activities and my volunteer is who I am as a person. I'm just using me. Dave has...
Sure.
I think that my TEDx talk on Deathbed Confessions and our talks about mindset and our podcast called Nothing But the Truth, Dave's got all these things too in his law life, are who we are. People don't do that. People don't have to do it. We choose to do it. So it's what defines us from everyone else. So for a long time, I've been saying, I don't know if Dave's... I brought this up recently. I don't know if I've convinced Dave or not. He certainly hasn't said the words yet. But years ago, I said, Dave, we go back and forth, and we've been together a long time as law partners in the legal field. I have to always make that have to make that clear. And I was like getting more interaction from people when I had a baseball cap on backwards and I was in a tank top and I was at the beach talking about a legal thing. Hey, let me tell you about a case we had or whatever. Or I was in my car, even with a suit on. To me, it's more real. It's more who you are. It's how you are as your expression, and someone's either going to relate to that or not. What are your thoughts?
That's the whole magic at this point in time, right? What we don't have at this point in time, it used to be difficult to find a lawyer, right? Like the best you had was a book that got updated every other year. Like that used to be how people found lawyers. And you're like think about the lack of information. And this is not that long ago. This is only 2 decades ago. The lack of information that you would have about making a really important decision. This is only 2 decades old, not even. And now, if you want, I can so what happens is you get that referral, whatever, people research you. They're going to vet you. That name search becomes really, really important. And what your name is becomes really, really important. How findable you are becomes really, really important. What you do, in my opinion, outside of the job of lawyering, I believe that that's why people make these decisions. And you can I'll use the EMT thing as an example. Nobody hates EMTs. Nobody. No one hates EMTs. Like the first responder thing, and this will sound a little political. It's not meant to. I think it's hard to be a cop right now, right? People have a visceral reaction to cops. Everyone loves firefighters. Everyone loves EMTs. There are some things that just happen to be evergreen. Everyone loves puppies. There are things that people like. Everyone likes the small business owner. There are just some things that are evergreen. And so it's an easy thing to embrace, and it's something that you can embrace, right? I think people want to know that story when they're vetting you. They don't. I mean, how many times have people hired you because of where you went to college, or went to law school?
No one cares.
No one cares.
Zero.
I mean, think about the people. So for the listeners, think about the people who work for you. How many of you know where they went to college and what their degree was and were they a good student or not? You have I can't answer that in the affirmative. I can only answer that in the affirmative for one of my people, and I know that because I know he didn't go to college, right? No one cares, but I know what he did. I know how he got through life, right? And those are the things that I want lawyers to let that out a lot more than they currently are, because here's the other. Let me give the different example. So we use the evergreen thing. You're an EMT. That's easy. Let's say you are a woman, And you know that there are some men or maybe some women who are never going to hire you, right? Because of who you are. Or you stand for something like that isn't universally loved. I talked about the evergreen, but like if you don't stand for something, you stand for anything. But when you stand for something, you build affinity with the people with whom that resonates. Period. Right. The easiest example is like I went to Michigan, like I'll bag on Ohio State. And if people from Ohio State don't hire me because I'm a Michigan guy, that's great because there's a bunch of Michigan people who are going to. Right. And so like you turn this into, do I have affinity for this person, whatever it may be for. Lawyers aren't doing enough to give people a reason to have affinity for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Conrad.
Let me, because we got to have you back.
Yeah.
Of course. But if somebody wanted to hire you, as a lawyer wanted to hire you, what is the process? Where do they find you? And what can they expect would be kind of like how it works out?
Yeah. So for me, and I appreciate the like, I'll go really fast on the self-promotional shit. So the good thing is I have a super hard to find name, super easy to find name because there's no one else named Conrad Saam in the world. So like, if you can't Google me, I'm not doing my job. It's Saam with 2 A's. So like, I'm very easy to find, and I've been doing this forever. So if you can't find me, like that's on me, not on you. The other part of this is like, we like people who are growing their law firm. We're not a great agency for someone who wants to keep the lights on next year. We're a great agency for someone who wants to become top 3 in Poughkeepsie, New York next year, right? Like that's kind of the model that works for us. Aggressive growth-minded firms, whether you're one person or 21 people, right? And then what I love, this is the part that I really like. I like figuring out what are the chess pieces, right? What are the chess pieces that you should be playing, right? And we literally, our proposal, I do this very deliberately because I overuse the chess analogy. We list out all the things that we do and we highlight, you should be doing this. You don't need a website redesign, but you should be leaning into local and you should consider an office expansion. And I think because your CRM is big enough, you should be running retargeting and CRM based advertising. And like, so we'll pull those things out and we'll highlight what you want. That's for me, that's the magic. Cause I've done this over and over and over again where I can look at a law firm and be like, you should not do these 3 things and you should lean into these things. And for the love of God, let's change this because that's what's killing you. And that's
Conrad, I just want to compliment you. I normally don't do this because, like, I feel that the one size fits all is just dastardly. It's the same thing of being an attorney. Every case is different because every client is different.
Right.
Their emotional tolerances, what they're facing, who their prosecutor. There's so many variables that when we do sales, believe it or not, a lot of times on the heavy cases, I actually am on the sales call. And the reason I'm on the sales call is because there are so many intricate nuances that I need to gauge and diagnose the case in order to give the proper, perfect, calibrated prescription, if you will, for this particular person. And what I have experienced in the last 13 years of private practice, in 2007, it's funny you mentioned that time period because from 2007 to 13 was when I was prosecutor, and it went from me 2013. I went from yellow page ads in 2007 to all this SEO, and it seems to me many people want to just put us in a box. And I feel like this is just my feeling, and you just addressed it, our uniqueness, and I believe we are, and I guess everybody feels that they're unique. Well, good. Everybody is unique. And I wish that somebody would treat me like I treat my new clients that come in, and I calibrate. You used the term chess pieces. Those chess pieces have to be moved on that board for our clients as well. It's not all chess pieces are one size fits all for everybody. And you do that. It sounds to me like you listen to who they are, you listen to where they are, where they've been, where they need to go, and then you're interested in the creativity of tailoring a plan to that client. That I think is unique.
It shouldn't be. Yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be unique. But I think what happens I think what's happened organically, most agencies start with someone who's really good at a thing. Pay-per-click, organic, social media, whatever it might be, and they build it around what they like doing. And that's a mistake because when you're a hammer, the whole world's a nail, right? And you think you have the solution that everyone should embrace because you've seen it work before, and that's great, but like it doesn't necessarily work everywhere. And so I don't think it should be unique, but I think it's a function of how most agencies grow because it's built around what the founder actually likes doing, right? And I realized really clearly, I never wanted to build websites. Hate it. But I realized like that was the first thing that we added was websites. It was SEO, and I had all these SEO problems that basically came down to the website's garbage. Yep. So we had to do that because we couldn't have done our job well elsewise. And then pay-per-click started eating up the SERP pages, right? So like you have to evolve. I don't think it should be special, but I agree with you. It seems to be lacking.
But that's another point too. I'm sorry, and I'll let Dave close it out. That's another point I like about you as well, because I think we feel this right now, that we've got to be ahead of the next thing. That to be comfortable where you are is a dangerous thing because things are changing.
Yeah. And what's happened, you go to any marketing, any legal conference right now, 2/3 at a minimum, 2/3 of the content is about AI, right? And you know where most of law firm business originates? It's not from AI right now. No, it's not even 2% right now. So like, is that going to change and evolve? Yes, 100%. But like everyone is chasing this object, and I'm not saying it's not important, but it needs to be a portion of what you're working on. Yeah, because you need to be thriving today. Right? So think about tomorrow. But like, I think what's happening is we're looking at AI and law firms are like, wow, if I got into the SEO game earlier, I'd be killing it right now. But like the reason people killed it in SEO is because no one was doing it well. And so the few people who nailed it, killed it. We're not in that world anymore. That world is gone. It's completely gone. It is competitive. There are consultants out the wazoo. Everyone's running marketing. You have 5 lawyer firms with their in-house marketing people, right? So like it's a different game. We've gone to the varsity.
So Dave, he may be saying stop chasing the SEO dragon.
No. I do not feel no. We're still going after organic. We're still creating content. You know, I think personally, some of these AI search engines are using some of the similar white hat tactics that are good for SEO.
It's a reprioritization, but you're right. Like AI, 100%.
Yeah. So I see that video creation, content creation. We're also doing a ton, Conrad, of wellness talks, being a advocate for attorney wellness in our spaces, in our communities, locally, statewide, and nationally, which is another huge piece to both of what we're doing. In addition to the TV, in addition to the growth, I mean, it's all growth. It's all growth-minded stuff.
Right.
Conrad, it's been real, man. It has been. We have a friend in common, Ron, who has helped us a ton. And he always brought up Conrad. Always talked about Conrad. And I really didn't know much about you, Conrad, until I met Ron. But I'll tell you what, everything I've heard has been on point, man. I mean, gold star in this industry, my friend.
Love this stuff. My downside, like, there's no plan B for me. Like, and you guys probably feel the same way owning a business. Like, I have no other career. Like, this is all I know, and I just love it.
Well, yeah. Well, you can tell you're very passionate, and that jumps off. Conrad, I've got to have you back. Maybe we'll talk offline soon, and
sounds great.
We appreciate it. But that's it for this incredibly entertaining and interesting and well presented show of Nothing But the Truth with your host, Bianchi, Dave Bruno. Dave, where can they find us?
NothingButTheTruthPodcast.com is our website. We're taking video right now with Conrad, and all of those videos are available on the website with links to Spotify and all the podcast platforms as well. Conrad, it's been real. Thank you for coming on Nothing But the Truth. We will see you again for sure.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Conrad. Peace.
We're the Bianchi Law Group, a team of former prosecutors and certified criminal trial attorneys.
But here's the thing. He put himself in a box when he said...
Relied on by CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Law and Crime, and news leaders across the country for our criminal defense expertise.
In a search warrant, you have to have probable cause that a crime's been committed and there's evidence in a particular place.
When you need a law firm with courage, compassion, and the commitment to fight for you, call the Bianchi Law Group today.